All right, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, if you are watching this video right now, you have solved questions 3, 4, 7, and 8. Those are the ones that I put in front of you to practice the skills that we had taught you earlier. So hopefully, if you're watching this, you are checking your work, not getting the answers to those practice problems. It's not going to help you very much if you didn't do that. I'm very quickly going to go through this. I'm not going to go through a ton of explanation. I'm just going to show you again how I would set these things up. Starting at the upper left, going down to the lower right, that first side here should be 10 times 15. The opposite side here should be 25t. Again, solving the part that I know that I can solve. 10 times 15 is 150. So 25t will equal 150. Now I need to isolate that variable, so I'm going to divide by 25 on both sides to keep it equivalent, and we should find out that t would equal 6. So hopefully that's what you had in your practice problem, realizing that t should equal 6 in that scenario. All right, same thing here, starting upper right, or upper left, excuse me, going to lower right. So this side should be 16s. Starting upper right, going down to lower left, should be 40 times 10. Solving what I can know, 40 times 10 is 400, equals 16s. And now getting that s on a side by itself by undoing what is there. How do I get rid of a multiplying by 16? I divide by 16. Those two would cross out, but treating it equally means I need to also divide by 16 on the other side. So s will equal whatever 400 divided by 16 is, and in this case, it is 25. Okay, and again, remember I can be checking these by putting them into a factor puzzle to make sure that they make sense. All right, now the only change I tend to make on the ratios is I do like to see visually them as fractions. They make more sense to me that way. So I convert my ratios here to the fractional form. So this would be the same thing as 6 over 15. 6 to 15 is the same thing as 6 over 15, as long as I keep this in the same position. So front to front, and back to back. So my 6 is on top here, which means my C needs to be on top for this one, and 20. If I flip-flop those at all, guys, I end up in trouble. So I've got to make sure that I put the correct numbers in the correct spots based on the fact that they are similar to one another. Now I'm going to set up my equation. 6 times 20 on one side and 15 times c, or 15c on the other side. Solving what I know, 60 times 20 is 120, so 15c will equal 120. Got to isolate that variable. I got to get rid of a multiply by 15, so I divide by 15, but to keep it in balance, I must do the same thing to both sides. And in this case, then, c will equal whatever 120 divided by 15 is, which in this case is 8. So c will equal 8. And then the last one, I think this one actually really solidified it for me, just because the numbers are really nice and small. It makes them easier to work with, and we can really see how this works out. And we're not confused if we shouldn't need a calculator, none of those things. So if I go d over 9 equals 4 over 6, my equation should be 6 times d equals 4 times 9. Again, doesn't matter the order. Solve what I can solve. 4 times 9 is 36, equals 6d. How do I get d isolated? I do the opposite of multiplying by 6, so I divide by 6. These two will cross themselves out. So my d will equal whatever 36 divided by 6 is, which is, again, another 6. And remembering, guys, that I can put that into a factor puzzle to prove that that is the same exact number. Now, these have all worked nice and neat and nice and clean. In some cases, it doesn't. In some cases, the number that we are putting in there is not going to be a whole number. It's not going to be something that goes in nice and easily. And so we have one example up here to kind of show you how that would play out. So we have a process here that Xander wants to pay $7 for 5, or not wants to. He paid $7 for 5 avocados, but he wants to figure out how much it would cost him to buy 9 avocados. Okay, so we're not quite double. If it was 10, it'd be nice and easy. Hey, just double the 7 and we're there, right? But in this case, we can't. So we've got to set this up, and they're just simply showing us the 3 different ways that we can do this, but they're also showing us here how this becomes trickier if we try to use the rate table that we've used in the past, or we try to use the factor puzzle that we used in the past, because it doesn't go in. We're not using whole numbers, or it's not a consistent pattern going up. All right. So as we look at the rate table, we can see that the first one we had to divide by 5 and then multiply by 9. We're skip counting by different things, or the process is different moving forward. Now we do know that would work. We could still get there, but it's not something that is an easy process. Maybe a little bit slightly easier would be the factor puzzle, where you can say, okay, how did I get to a 7 and a 5? But again, I think in most cases, we are not thinking in terms of 7/5, in terms of, well, how can I get to a 7 and a 5 to be the same thing? So again, I think the easiest way to do this is the cross multiplication method, which they are showing us here right now. Now that still might get you to an answer that you're not quite sure how that relates to money, but I'm going to show you that here hopefully in the next minute or two. So you can see that they are setting up the fractions that we know. 7 avocados cost him $5. He wants to know how much. Oh, I see, now I flip-flopped it. Mr. Mace made a mistake here. So he paid $7, so this is money, for 5 avocados. So I'm going to put them in that format. So we want to know how much it's going to cost for 9 avocados. So making sure that I have those in the correct proportion, and that's what you're seeing right up here. Now I'm setting up the equation, c times 5, or 5c, times 7 times 9, which is 63. And so we know that c equals 63 over 5. Now, to solve that, we simply have to say 63 divided by 5. But when I do that, you're going to end up with something that looks like 12 3/5. But if you remember back, and it's been a while, I do understand that, guys, we can also do this in the long division process, and because we're dealing with money, we want to set this up as a decimal remainder, not as a fractional remainder. Okay? So when I go through this process, 5 goes into 6 one time. I'm going through my whole long division process. 5 goes into 13 2 times. And there's where my remainder 3 came in. That's why it was 3/5 right here. All right, but the decimal version, remember, I can add a decimal point to my answer and to my problem and keep adding zeros until I solve it. Now, 5 goes into 30 6 times. Okay, 6 times 5 is 30. I've now got rid of my remainder. Now, I don't typically say $12.6. I usually have money have a second place value, so in this case it would be $12.60, and that is where they are getting that answer for. So it doesn't always work out as a whole number. So we do need to know the processes of going through that long division. That's where sometimes using the calculator might help, because it'll give you the decimal point answer. Those kinds of things moving forward. Okay, so hopefully, again, that helps to drive home that point. The Puzzle Penguin problem, I would take a look at it, see if you can understand what his mistake was. It's actually a very obvious mistake, so we will let you kind of figure out what that would be as you go forward here. And I'm going to hold off on talking to you about it. I'll let your teachers talk to you about that if you have a question about what he did wrong. All right? So thank you guys very much. Go ahead and start working on your assignment. And don't forget, if you do have questions about this process, about cross multiplication, ask your teachers. Please reach out. We are here to try to help you with that process.